Welcome in, everyone. So today we've got an explainer that is, well, definitely a little different from our usual deep dives. You might want to settle in, maybe turn the lights down just a bit, and listen closely. Because today we are unpacking a totally spine-chilling story that takes every single romantic cliché you can think of and turns it completely upside down. We're going to walk through the tragic, terrifying tale of a destination wedding that went horribly, horribly wrong.
I mean, seriously, how does a dream romantic getaway turn into a gruesome graveyard? It's honestly a scenario that plays on some of our deepest, darkest fears, right? That idea of the happiest day of your life suddenly getting hijacked by something completely sinister and totally unexplainable. So let's dive right into this and see exactly how a young couple's absolutely perfect plan unraveled into sheer terror.
Sapno ki khaufnak manzil, which translates to the terrifying destination of dreams. To really grasp this tragedy, we first need to understand the crazy contrast between the fairy tale this couple expected and the dark reality they actually walked into.
So, picture this. The location is Cherrapunji, which you might know is famous for being literally one of the wettest places on Earth. It's June. The monsoon rains are just absolutely pouring down. And when our couple, Advait and Sanvi, landed at the Guwahati airport, they were beyond thrilled. To them, this heavy, endless rain made Cherrapunji this breathtaking, dramatic backdrop for their wedding. But, from a narrative standpoint, this stormy, wet, incredibly isolating weather, it basically serves as the perfect eerie atmosphere for the nightmare that's about to kick off.
And really the tragedy of it all is amplified by just a single number, 4. Advait and Sanvi had been together in a deeply loving relationship for 4 years. This destination wedding wasn't just some spontaneous, sudden whim, it was the ultimate culmination of years of dreaming and planning. They were so in love and just completely, blissfully unaware that this once-in-a-lifetime event was actually going to be their last.
Which brings us to Section 2, Bus Gadaravna Safar, or the terrifying bus journey. Because listen, the horror didn't actually wait for them to reach the resort. No, it started the literal second they left Guwahati.
So Advait and Sanvi hop on a bus to travel up to Cherrapunji. But right away, things just felt off to Sanvi. Aside from the two of them and the driver, there was only one other passenger on board. It was this woman, completely covered in a veil, sitting all the way in the very back row. And Sanvi just found her gaze constantly getting drawn to this veiled figure. Now here's where the dread really sets in. Every single time Sanvi glanced back, the woman would start muttering these weird, strange mantras and flash Sanvi this profoundly terrifying smile. Just imagine the creeping anxiety of being trapped in a moving vehicle with that kind of energy.
Since it's a long trip, the driver eventually pulls over at a roadside dhaba for a quick tea and snack break. Advait notices Sanvi has actually fallen to sleep, so he steps off the bus alone to grab some food, figuring he'll just wake her up when he gets back. But Sanvi wakes up before he returns, and in a split second, her entire reality shatters. That veiled woman, she's no longer in the back of the bus. She is sitting right beside Sanvi. The veil suddenly shifts and reveals a face that is half cut and just horribly mangled. And before Sanvi can even process it or try to run, the woman violently grabs her hand. Sanvi tries to scream, but you know that feeling in a nightmare where your voice just fails you? That's exactly what happened.
By the time Advait gets back onto the bus, the woman is back in her own seat at the back, and he just chalks Sanvi's sheer panic up to a bad dream. Desperate to just distract herself, Sanvi jams in her earphones to listen to some music. But the music fades out, and instead this horrifying whisper echoes directly into her ears. "Main tumhe zinda nahi chodungi." I will not leave you alive.
From there, things escalate insanely fast. Look at this timeline. First, you have the creepy bus ride encounter. Then, the terrifying earphone whisper, which actually causes Sanvi to scream so loudly that the driver swerves and crashes the bus straight into a tree. Miraculously, nobody is hurt, but when they look around, the veiled woman has completely vanished. Then, as they're standing outside this crashed bus in the pouring rain, Sanvi spots the woman one more time. Only now, she's dressed in a full bridal outfit. The woman's neck twists entirely backwards, she locks these glowing, blood-red eyes right onto Sanvi and throws herself off the hillside. So by the time they finally make it to the resort, Sanvi is beyond traumatized, but tragically, Advait is still dismissing everything she saw as just, typical pre-wedding stress.
Moving into Section 3, Upshagun or Khuni Mehendi, Bad Omens and Bloody Mehendi. This right here is the absolutely crucial turning point, where the psychological horror Sanvi is facing crosses the line into severe physical harm. Okay, so the next day at the resort, the extended family starts arriving. The Mendi ceremony kicks off, and for a brief, fleeting moment, the lively, joyful vibe actually makes Sanvi forget about the horrors from the bus. But the second the Mendi is applied, she feels this intense, agonizing burning sensation. We're talking everywhere the henna touches her skin, these deep, bloody red wounds just tear open. She tries to yank her hand away, but the woman applying the Mendi is gripping her super tightly. And when Sanvi finally looks up at the artist's face, her blood runs completely cold. It's the woman from the bus. The sheer shock of it is so intense that Sanvi just instantly faints on the spot.
This whole situation really highlights the absolute terrifying isolation Sanvi was dealing with. I mean, when she wakes up, her hands are genuinely covered in actual wounds. But Advait, he just rationalizes it. He's like, oh, it's just a normal Mendi allergy. We'll fix it with some cream. But to Sanvi, her terrifying reality is totally undeniable. She knows for a fact these are supernatural wounds inflicted by a literal ghost trying to stop her wedding. But she realizes nobody is ever going to believe her. So, entirely paralyzed by fear and feeling completely alone, she just decides to keep quiet.
Which leads us to Section 4, Mautka Hofnak Mundab, the terrifying pavilion of death. The wedding day has officially arrived, and at this point, the supernatural forces have entirely taken the wheel. So, the atmosphere inside this banquet hall was just suffocating. The room had these huge windows looking out at the heavy monsoon rain. And then suddenly, boom, there's a complete power blackout. Everyone just assumes it's because of the severe weather outside. So now the only source of light in this massive, pitch-black hall is the flickering fire of the Havankund. And in that dancing, eerie orange light, Sanvi notices something absolutely horrifying, an unseen presence. She realizes that the woman in the red bridal dress is sitting directly behind Advait, physically holding his hand, and Advait is just completely oblivious. The priest is rushing through the ceremony in the dark, and he tells Advait to apply the Sindor to Sanvi. But Advait can't move. He is literally completely paralyzed. And before anyone in the room can even begin to comprehend what's happening, every single massive glass window in that banquet hall violently shatters, one by one. Advait's body then begins to convulse, almost like he's having a severe seizure.
And that is when the entity drops all the illusions. The ghost reveals her true form to the entire wedding party. She is standing there in this soaked, blood-red bridal dress. Her face is this horrifying, mangled landscape of deep slashes and open wounds, and her eyes, they're these glowing, unnatural pools of blood-red hatred.
What happens next takes only seconds, happening right in front of their helpless, screaming family. First, the ghost violently grabs Advait by the neck. With this sickening force, she twists it entirely, stopping his breathing instantly. Advait is dead, and before anyone can even react, she grabs Sanvi by the neck. Still carrying Sanvi, the ghost just leaps right out of the shattered window, plunging straight into the dark, rain-filled gorge below.
Just like that, this grand wedding turns into a profound scene of mourning. Advait is gone. Sanvi is completely missing, which brings us to our final section, Section 5. Shrap or Kala Sach, the curse and the dark truth.
So what is the deal with this place? Well, an old man from the local village finally steps forward and explains the horrific history of the land this resort was built on. Years and years ago, long before the resort was even a thought, a young girl lived on this exact hillside. And tragically, on her actual wedding day, her new husband murdered her. He violently pushed her down the steep slope right into that same gorge. Ever since that awful day, her vengeful spirit has cursed the hill. She absolutely refuses to allow any wedding to take place there. And if a couple somehow manages to make it all the way to the mandap, just like Advait and Sanvi did, she takes their lives. Because this was literally the very first wedding ever hosted at this brand new resort, the management had completely, fatally ignored the local folklore.
It took a grueling 2 full weeks, 2 entire weeks of searching the dense, rain-soaked forests at the very bottom of that gorge before the search party finally discovered Sanvi's lifeless body.
But you know, it's the condition her body was found in that really leaves us with a final, deeply unsettling question. Because when they found Sanvi, she was found hanged. She had been strangled by her very own Mangal Sutra, the sacred necklace that signifies a married woman in Hindu culture. Which leaves us to ask, did the ghost specifically ensure that the ultimate symbol of the marriage Sanvi fought so incredibly hard for became the very weapon that ended her life? It's a terrifying thought about curses, ignored warnings, and a love story that was just swallowed whole by a monsoon nightmare. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, stay safe and hey, maybe do just a little bit of local research before booking that dream destination getaway.